Today on Own It, we're joined by Adam Bouska and Jeff Parshley, the co-founders of the NOH8 Campaign. What started as a response to Prop 8 in California has grown into a global movement for equality, one striking photo at a time. From MySpace beginnings, yes, that's MySpace, to traveling to 23 countries, they share their journey, the power of storytelling through art, and why their fight isn't over. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Own It, a special edition of Own It.
Yes.
And we have special guests, the founders of the NOH8 Campaign, which a lot of us have seen before, but we haven't got to hear the whole story.
Yeah.
So Adam Bouska and Jeff Parshley, thank you both so much for taking this time out of your very busy schedule, because we were talking earlier and you guys are all over the place. Like 60 countries, 30 countries?
We've been to 23 countries
Okay.
so far, and we're actually currently on a 30-stop tour over about 6 weeks. So we left Los Angeles, where we're based, on August 20th, and so we'll be back someday.
Someday. Where are you
That's
going?
a good way to
on
put
that?
it.
Are you going to any good places?
I mean, we already drove all the way to Maine,
Mhm.
and then we're already working our way back.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, we get to see small town America, and that's
Yeah.
the best part of it.
So I got to ask you a question. You drive up in a small town, you know, like I did the AIDS ride in I don't know '97 or something like
Yeah.
that, and I remember like coming into a small town and having that many gay people in a town was like it was like an event, you know, and what sort of reactions are you getting when you go to these small towns?
I mean, we find people to be very grateful. A lot of times people say, oh, our town is always overlooked by stuff like this. They're always going to the big cities and like other organizations, or even just like celebrity stuff like concerts and stuff stuff that doesn't make it to these small towns. And they're always so grateful and to be included and to feel like they're a part of it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, Jeff and I both come from small towns. Myself from a small town in central Illinois, Jeff from New Hampshire. But we both can relate to that of not having the resources. So it's important for us to get back to those areas.
So start from the beginning. What was the impetus to start the NOH8 Campaign?
Well, I was a bar manager in West Hollywood, and Adam was a photographer. And the day that Prop 8 passed, and to put into context, 2008, Obama was elected. That same day, Proposition 8 passed, which
And that was in California.
in California, which banned same-sex marriage. So
Right. It was no on 8.
it was no,
So-
it was
so-
a Proposition 8.
Right.
But no, Proposition 8, if I remember, would have banned gay marriage.
It was
and- or
yes to
same-sex
ban
marriage.
and
So-
no.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It was
so
kinda
I remember-
backwards.
Right, because I had no on 8. So 8
Yeah.
didn't pass.
It did pass, actually. So the Supreme Court ruled marriage equality legal in California. 18,000 couples got married. Then Prop 8 went on the ballot to ban same-sex marriage.
Right.
It was put on by a lot of people from Utah, churches in Utah. And it did pass because a lot of people were like, this will never pass in California. This doesn't make any sense. And then it did pass. So it banned same-sex marriage. So there was rallies and protests coming out of West Hollywood because that's the heart of the gay community in Los Angeles. And so as a bar manager there, I was kind of engulfed in it just by default, and we were not activists prior to, and so we just started taking part in the rallies and protests, and we felt that they were effectively getting a message out to people because we would hear people driving by and beeping in support or coming to their window of their apartment and watching us walk, and we just felt like it was a message that was resonating with people there. And so when we went back to the apartment, we just decided that we wanted to continue that message, and at the time it was MySpace. So we just,
look, this is the first
You have
podcast.
no idea. I talked
You
about
just made
MySpace.
Spencer's
You made
day.
my
Yeah.
day.
You made his week.
We'll chat
Hey, it was
later
meant to
because
be.
no one ever mentions MySpace.
Good for you.
The
Continue.
campaign was born on MySpace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was. And
Can
so
we end now?
No, this is great.
we
This is
just
good.
wanted a profile photo. We just wanted a way to speak out through a photo. And there was a lot of people that were marching that would hold up a sign that says, I'm a victim of hate, because Proposition 8 was labeled Proposition Hate because it was writing discrimination into the California Constitution. So we're like, yeah, I can relate with that. I feel like I'm a victim because my rights are up for a vote. And so we decided to, use the no hate as the protest side of it, and the tape symbolized our voices being silenced, because we figured that if every single person in the LGBT community voted to protect our own rights, and everybody outside of the LGBT community voted against that, then we would lose our rights. And so we just felt like that we were being silenced by this vote. And so it just started by asking our friends to take part and inviting them to the house.
Yeah, we never intended it to be this big campaign. We were just responding to the issues at hand. And being a photographer, adding a message to photos is what it's all about. So this is an opportunity to make a statement. So we started involving friends and family, and that's really where it all began.
Yeah, I hand painted the first 500 people that have posed, and then early 2009 we realized like hate is not a California issue. So we're like, let's take this message to other people. And so we went to New York for the first photo shoot, and we had over 500 people show up for our very first out-of-state photo shoot. And we're just like, okay, this message is relevant to everybody. And that's when we decided to create an organization, and we were just taking a MySpace photo. We were not trying to create a worldwide nonprofit organization. And so we figured, what do we have here? Like, we have something that people are resonating with. It's a tool. These photos are a tool. They're creating a dialogue. People are coming out and getting active. They're mingling with like-minded people in these rooms. And so it was just like a great way that people could use us as an outlet to let people know like that they had a stance on it and what that was.
Did other groups get involved with you as well, saying, hey, we want to help support this or something? Or I mean, I'm just really curious, like when you set up in New York, was that through some alliance out of some group in New
we
York?
had partnered through the hotel maybe, where they would donate the space, but we had no big partner. We had no formal sponsor. It was just us going out and setting up, getting a room, and trying to organize. We had no experience doing this, but it seemed like a natural thing to do in that situation.
And what's really great about this when you're other than MySpace, but you're saying that you had no experience doing it and you just did it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That is the most important thing to me.
There was a passion behind it, and it's grown. So tell us the journey since 2008. You've been to so many different countries. Where have you been? What's been the most memorable? Not the most memorable. I'm sure you have tons of them, but what's been a really interesting experience?
There's a lot of different countries. We've been to 23 different countries now. For me, I like to say Singapore was one of the most impactful because when we were there, it was when homosexuality was still criminalized. We worked with Facebook to organize a photo shoot for staff and for the public. But for them to make that stance, it just showed us a new respect for the freedom of speech. Not everyone has that ability overseas at some of these locations we were setting up in. So it really showed us how important it was for us to share their stories.
It started off a very grassroots mission. It still is a very grassroots mission. Adam and I are the only two people that travel around to do it. But I found impactful when we were in South Africa. We went to Cape Town. We worked with Pride. And after the photo shoot was done, we made a trip across town to the only LGBT homeless shelter on the continent. And so all of the No Hate shirts that we had left over from our photo shoot, we donated to the LGBT center and just left them with stuff and had a chance to meet with them. And we shot at an LGBT center in Tel Aviv as well. And this was a 1-year anniversary for a mass shooting that was there. And they're the only LGBT center in Tel Aviv. And they said, that's not gonna stop us, and you're not gonna shut us down. So they invited us there a year to the day, and we did a photo shoot in this Tel Aviv center 1 year after.
Yeah, speaking about, you said something which Hillary told me about, and I didn't realize it, and it blew my mind. You were talking about the Supreme Court and California now, right? It's about how important elections are. And I just want to hear this from you, that if the Supreme Court overturns their ruling regarding same-sex marriages, that it then becomes illegal in California.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that a lot of people don't realize that Proposition 8 is still on the books in California. It was never overturned. The only reason we have marriage equality is because of the Obergefell ruling.
So it was never, it was only overruled. So basically Prop 8 is still our law, but the Supreme Court's ruling overruled it. So the same way with women's rights, when they overturned Roe v. Wade, it went back to some 1800 laws.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to Prop 8. It's basically, it just goes back to whatever last law was on the book. And Prop 8 is still in our Constitution.
Yep.
So we are working this year with Evan Lowe up in San Francisco, and he has gotten enough signatures to put take that wording off of the ballot. So there'll be a Prop 3 this year, which is to remove the wording in case the Supreme Court does do what they did to Roe v. Wade.
So, and there's, I mean, goes back to really register to vote and vote. Otherwise, you have no voice.
Yeah. That's how we felt like we were being silenced. And now it's important that we act upon that and that we get people engaged and involved and make them feel like they're a part of something and show them how important their voice really is.
Do you have people coming out protesting against you when you're doing some of these events sometimes?
Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of that.
Thank God.
But
Wow.
we've set up across the street from the Westboro Baptist Church, who has actively protested us online. So we think it's important to support our community there, and we've done that.
That's our second mention of Westboro today.
I know,
Right?
it's a day. It's a day today.
But it makes sense. It makes sense.
It's crazy that a lot of people do ask that, believe it or not, and I just find it interesting that we really don't have a lot of groups that come out, and it's like, how are you going to go and protest a group that is just advocating for no hate, you know, that's advocating for inclusiveness, or that's advocating for people's rights? And so I'm glad that they haven't, but I find it surprising sometimes.
Is there any cross advocacy with, I don't know, like Black Lives Matter or something like that? Is there, kind of like the whole no hate message?
I mean, we work a lot with voter registration because that's very important to us. There was a time in Hawaii where the governor vetoed a marriage equality bill out there, and she was actually a supporter of the bill. She just didn't like the way that it was put in by the legal people, like the politicians. She wanted to go to a vote.
Oh, I see.
So she vetoed it, and she said, let our people vote on that and put it in. So we went there and for the photo shoot, and we registered everybody that came, and we told them, hey, this is what your governor did. She wants you to vote. So check if you're registered to vote. If you're not, please register here. And so we always try to collaborate with different groups.
Yeah, and I think a big part of our intersectionality with other organizations come from working with the Pride Centers or Atlanta Black Pride, or just we like to show that the inclusive spaces, sometimes it's churches, we just like to get out there and show that every organization, every person has a reason to get involved. It affects everyone.
What's one we were talking offline about some memorable stories that you have from like middle of the country. Like, we think, generally speaking, the coasts tend to be the blue and more inclusive, but the middle of the country, you've had amazing families come out and come and have their family photos done. What's been some inspirational moments for you?
I mean, it's hard to pick one photo, but I think that having 842 people show up to a photo shoot at a church in Dallas, Texas is pretty phenomenal. And so a lot of people think of Texas as a red state, but there's a lot of support, and there's a big community in there. And I think that was I thought that was really awesome to see that happen.
And one of the more memorable moments for me is that two of our volunteers actually met at one of our Chicago photo shoots and ended up getting married.
Oh, wow.
So I think that is a big testament to the environment we're creating and introducing people that might have not known each other before this. It's creating conversation, and we're documenting the community over time. We're seeing families grow. We're seeing people transition. It's just cool to be a part of that in any way we can, honestly.
Yeah. Documenting the community is one of the most rewarding things.
Yeah, what was interesting too is I was over getting some stuff from your booth, and something which was eye-opening for me, which I didn't realize, is there were all these different sort of rainbows in the 8 that you have on your symbol, and I had no idea that there were so many affinity groups within.
Well, I mean, the inclusive rainbow represents everybody. Yet we are. It's like saying like the American flag represents all of us, but we also have our own identity beyond the American flag. So the inclusive rainbow represents all of us, but we all have our own identity, and we all identify in different ways, and visibility matters, and I think representation matters, and so that's why it's important for us to offer that sticker in so many different color variations, because people need to see themselves in this to feel included, and so if that means that it's a sticker, then that's important.
Yeah,
I think that's so important, because it's the same thing where when you're looking at the faces of the astronauts, so to speak, and if you don't see yourself represented in that particular the group of people, you don't think that it's possible for you, and it limits your vision. Where do you want the campaign to go? What's a goal that you guys have?
Gosh, it's a hard one.
For me, it's just to get back into like the high schools, the schools. I feel like a lot of these spaces are trying to eliminate education and eliminate a lot of knowledge surrounding these issues, and I feel like knowledge is power. That's how people learn about the past and how we prevent the history from repeating itself. So it's important that we not limit discussion around these topics, and I think it would be great to get into schools and to be a part of that discussion, because No Hate is very inclusive. It's not just an LGBT issue, and it shows how it affects everyone. So that's what I'd like to get
That's actually
to.
a great point, because when Prop 8 passed, there was a lot of people that were just like, well, Prop 8 doesn't affect me personally, so I'm either way. But I'm just saying, like, but if you care about me, if you love me, if you're my friend, if you're my family, and Prop 8 affects me, then you should feel you should feel affected. And so that's why these connections matter so much, and why allies are so important, because if the whole LGBT community in California voted to protect our rights and all of these people did not, like, we would lose. But with the allies coming and supporting and taking a stand for us, we might win. So allyship is extremely important to us.
Are you going to colleges?
Yeah, all the
We've
time.
done a panel with Rutgers and a photo shoot with them. We did College Station.
Yep, we just did Lehman College up in New York. We work with the University of Jacksonville. We were actually working with an LGBT center in the University of Jacksonville, and due to the laws in Florida, that LGBT center had to close. And if you think about this, this is a school for adults. This is a university. This is a school for adults, and the laws in California are forcing the
Florida.
LGBTs, in Florida, are forcing these LGBT centers that are an important resource to people, to close. So, we definitely work with colleges and high schools, and
Santa Clara Mission College is
Yep.
another one that we'd love to get back to.
University of Houston.
Yeah, there's a strong support base there. The students love to get involved, so we like to be there for them.
How do you replicate yourself then? I mean, because you have the foundation that's built so well. What's a dream, or how can you replicate yourself to make it more, like, there's more of you, right?
You mean, like
You don't-
chapters sort of things?
or like people to help, or community to come together and say, hey, I'm also a photographer. I would love to continue your campaign. How do I do that? Have you?
I think that because we are always traveling and on the road so much, and the integrity of our photos is very important, and because Adam has taken them all, the celebrity photos and all the other day photos, so we try to keep that consistent when it comes to representation of the campaign. But we have a section on our website called NOH8, and the photos are very simple to recreate. It's a white shirt on a white backdrop with the tape and the logo. And so we always encourage people to take their own photos and to submit their photos. We have some photos submitted from all over the world, just because we want as many people to be involved as possible, and we know that they can't always come to participate. So we always encourage people to submit their own photos.
That's awesome.
And with technology innovating, who knows what AI will bring? You never know. Snapchat filter, an app. Well, we're always thinking of different ways to get out there, though.
Probably one of the most helpful things for our campaign is people that offer spaces. Because we go to small towns, it's sometimes hard to find a welcoming space there. Imagine living there.
Right.
So sometimes we just have to rent a space to go to these small towns, and so people that invite us and bring us into their spaces is probably one of the easiest ways for us to get our message across easier.
And I think it's important too. A big part of our message is that we're taking photos, we're doing all this, but it's not about the photos. It's about sharing stories at the end of the day.
dialogue.
And we believe that people can use their own passions and their own talents as a way to contribute. We've seen people get involved in all sorts of different ways with No Hate, using their talents, and that's something we always encourage. We're always. Go ahead.
This is just how we chose to speak out, because he is a photographer. That's his talent, and that's what we decided to speak out with. But we always encourage people to use their talents to speak out to issues that are important to them, because look what we did with one photo, and now what we are. And so if somebody is a musician and they can make a song, or somebody's a dancer, or somebody's an artist and they can paint something, there's just so many different ways that we can use our talent for good. And so we are always encouraging people to do that.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is that you do get sponsorships, like Realtor.com is sponsored your presence at the Alliance this year. What's your relationship like with affinity groups like the Alliance in real estate, and is there a way to build more partnerships out there?
Yeah, this is our first time working with Realtor.com, which we are actually very grateful for. And being here at the Alliance has opened up the community or the campaign to a lot of different people from all around the country. And so I think that's extremely important because we can get to the whole country just by being here today. We don't have a lot of sponsorship in general, but we want people to have these photos. And so for Realtor.com to come in and say, you know what, we just want you to give away this resource to people. We don't want anything for it. We don't want any, acknowledgement. That we just want, we understand what these photos do for the community, and we want the community to have them. And so for them to come in and offer to pay for everybody's photo today was a huge thing, because that just doesn't happen, because we're such grassroots that we go around and people pay for their own photos. And so it's really nice to work with a group like that can come in and to offset it like that for us.
And this is in a climate where we're seeing companies like John Deere, Tractor Supply, and
Target,
Home Depot, Lowe's, all cancel their DEI programs. So it really is a testament to Realtor.com to see them take a step in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a crazy thing to get rid of these programs, and we've had these conversations before, because you are by having them. You're increasing your employee base by a huge amount, because then people feel safe to come work for your company. These can be very talented people. Your and of course your customer base, based on these things, because maybe you feel safer, you want to support them from doing that. And then you think about what happened with that beer company.
Oh yeah,
and it's just it's ridiculous, and they shied away from it. And yet they could have owned it. I mean,
it could have been a teachable moment.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they could have said, like, screw you.
Yeah.
And I understand. I mean, it's a difficult choice for companies, but to get rid of a DEI initiative, for that to be turned into some sort of to be weaponized.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of message they're sending, but it really says a lot.
And what's sad is that it turned into a ripple effect, because as soon as one did it, then another did it, then another did it, and it's still happening with other groups. And so we commend any corporation that has a DEI group that advocates for the minority people in their company, that supports them, that makes them feel welcomed. And so having Realtor.com as a sponsor for this event was kind of a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the No Hate campaign goes very hand in hand with the No Hate in real estate. I mean, everybody should have, like, shelter is a human right. Housing can be very hard to get into, but for us, it's our dream to put people into home ownership. Like, we evangelize and whatnot on that. But I want to applaud you both. Thank you so much for doing all the work that you've done. And I can't believe that 2008 it started, and it's still going strong, and it's still needed, and it's not. I mean, the need is not going anywhere.
We tell a lot of people that when the campaign started, we were fighting for marriage equality, 2008. And today, our community is fighting for their life.
Right.
They're fighting for healthcare. They're fighting to exist.
Yeah.
They're fighting to live authentically. So it's more relevant today than it ever was.
100%. Thank you, Adam.
Well,
Thank you, Josh.
thanks for helping us spread the word.
We appreciate it.
And you can find it at the NOH8Campaign.com and Instagram too.
Yep. All of our social is at No Hate Campaign.
TikTok
and
Instagram.
MySpace.com/NoHate. Is that
Our top friends.
That's if MySpace is still there. We'll be there if they're there.
I told all my friends, I said, I'll put you in if you have a No Hate photo.
I love it. Well, thank you again, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on another episode of Own It.
Oh, yep.
Next time on Own It, it's the first in our new series called My First Million. We're talking with Ed Barreto, a total powerhouse who hit $1 million in gross commission income just 3 years into his real estate career. He's sharing how he mastered open houses, built a killer business from the ground up, and has turned his own success into impact for others. And oh, did we mention he's traveling the world while doing it? You heard right. He's spending an entire year abroad. You're going to love this episode. Don't miss it. All right, take a listen. Let me know. I can redo them anytime.